Welcome to Chones Party with Sky. And Sky is one of my favorite humans and definitely a bestie. I probably would have fallen down many trap holes without Sky throughout the Chones experience here. Do you want to just say hi real quick and I'll start asking you some questions?
Yeah, I'm Sky. Am an advisor to Chones, and I've been in the DAO space for probably 5, 6, 7 years. Um, I'm a big believer in decentralization and have been part of many DAOs and experiments in this space. And we've had ups and downs, and we've learned lots of lessons. And so we're, I don't think DAOs are going anywhere. I think they're going to get better, but we need them in a decentralized world. And so, yeah, not giving up on them and being a part of interesting ones and interesting projects and being excited about it is still, yeah, still where I come from.
I like that. I want to keep exploring that. Let's just start maybe like a from the very beginning sort of thing. Um, can you give us a sort of like TLDR on your background? Like what have you spent time doing, learning, etc. But like more importantly, what have you cared about and given your attention to?
Yeah. Um, so had, yeah, in my earlier career was in finance and then tech startup world, uh, and in finance involved in commodities. So discovered crypto and Bitcoin kind of as a digital commodity in the earlier days, but dove into Web3 full time in 2018. 2017, I was just doing it for fun. I was like, oh, I need to work in this space, but like many people, wasn't a dev, so just yeah, that was kind of a point where Ethereum was picking up, and there was a lot more things to do in the space outside of being a dev, and so uh, went on like a crypto tour, lots of different events, met a lot of people, ended up joining the team at POA Network, which was a solid project led by Igor Baranov. And that team was basically, yeah, it was a big team. It was building so many important things in the space and was ahead of its time on many of the things. And I got to do business and development and partnerships and kind of spreading awareness of all the things we're doing. And that included, POA Network was kind of a Polygon side chain before Polygon existed. Um, as Ethereum was filling up, it was the first kind of side chain that would allow for scalability. Um, it was it was a solution for people that existed before people knew they even had a problem. With that came the first ever bridges, ERC20 bridges, um, the native token of POA network. POA token was actually an ERC20 on mainnet. Um, at the same time, a big focus was an open source block explorer. At that time, EtherScan was just this one explorer that was private and expensive and mainly for mainnet Ethereum. And so the minute you have another EVM chain, the team realized you can't really have these chains unless you have uh, an explorer for your chain. And so with some grants and some focus and some money, started building what is now Block Scout. And now Block Scout is actually the most successful blockchain explorer out there uh, that is open source. It's not as popular as Etherscan, but there are over 1,000 different chains, mostly EVM, but also non-EVM chains that are using Block Scout to be their main explorer. It's all open source. Anyone in the world can contribute to it. That's the opposite of Etherscan. It's really something special in this place in the space. It's really important for the space. Um, the end goal of something like that in the open source world, free and open source software, is that everyone that starts using it starts contributing to it as well. And so that's happened, and the team's grown, and it has a lot of features that lead the way ahead of Etherscan. And so it's a really important tool in the space. And so I got to go around and in the early days of that, sell that to different other EVM chains and things. Um, the team was also doing like new clients running on different code for Ethereum, all these different projects that were helping the Ethereum world succeed. And also they've been working on privacy stuff, but Block Scout's now the main thing for their team. So getting to see all those early projects, be a part of them, um, got to see POA network was run as a DAO as well by the validators. So it was one of the first DAOs in action to exist and do stuff. And so learned and saw the power of decentralization, open source software, and I guess public goods as well. And so in the later than bear market after that, kind of dove more into actual other DAOs and things, and that's when Moloch DAO was coming out, Metacartel DAO, a whole bunch of different projects. DX DAO, DAO House was building a framework for Moloch DAO, and so got involved in all these different projects, mainly related to DAOs, governance, and DeFi. And yeah, so rode through different waves of those and learned a lot. And would bring kind of knowledge between different communities, and always liked the idea of being a part, that you could be a part of lots of different communities and projects in the space, and bringing and sharing lessons you learn from one community into another community. And so still kind of do that. And that's kind of how, got involved with Bar Lucid and Chones, is that Chones is kind of a more formalized entity that is doing that plus more. So doing that kind of connection of different people and projects and lots of things that are people are working on, and also like bringing that culture together and spreading that information across those different communities that may not be talking and chatting with each other. And so focusing on the expansion of that, and then overall, I guess, culture of and alignment and values between different people and projects is something that Ethereum really needs. And so that's why I'm also excited about Chones. But I guess that was a broad background.
I didn't know all that, and thank you for saying nice things about Chones. I'm really glad
Yeah.
you're hanging around here. Um, you said that it was working in commodities that got your attention to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then you said also in 2017 you were like, I need to work here. Can you go into
Mm-hmm.
like what got your attention and why you were attracted to it?
Yeah, mainly just, well, initial interest was there is this new thing called Bitcoin. Like many people didn't really understand what it was or how it worked, but thought of it as, from the earliest days, thought of it as a digital commodity. And easiest way to think about it and explain it to people is digital gold. And so you have a very good understanding of precious and base metals, and how those markets work. And so obviously a lot of the terminology and logic and ideas around Bitcoin and other crypto tokens come from like a commodity world. And now many of these tokens are actually treated, even in the US, as commodities, and are being governed by the CFTC rather than an organization like the SEC. Just like gold, you know, comparing Bitcoin to gold is quite easy. All the gold in the world can fit into less than two Olympic-sized swimming pools, and a little bit comes out each year. That's very, very similar to like how Bitcoin exists. There's this much, and a little bit more comes out each year. They call the people that are protecting the network miners that are doing the work, and so it just yeah came this early kind of new idea of a digital commodity. And so in our space, I think education is one of the most important things. And Coinbase wants to onboard 1 billion people into crypto. Sometimes it sounds like they just want 100 people, 1 billion people to use their wallet and buy some crypto through them. But that's not the most important thing in my mind. The most important thing is for that billion people to like actually understand what digital ownership means, basically. And so you could split up the world into people that either don't understand what digital ownership means, are learning in the process of learning what digital ownership means, and understand what digital ownership means. And there'll be like this point in your life where you'll always remember when you didn't understand it, you started to understand it, and then you understand it. And that is the most important path that everyone in the world is going to have to go on. Um, it's a matter of time. Everyone will eventually own and have digital things, and most older people just can't comprehend it. Um, and so that's really interesting. So lots of ways to teach and educate people. We need to expand that because owning crypto is one thing, but like you have to understand what it means to own it, how you own it, and why it's important. And so that that changing of people's lives, basically, of understanding what that even is has to come along with like the with everything else that comes with crypto, whether it's speculation or use payments or use cases and stuff. And without understanding why what it is and why you're using it and how to use it, then you might as well just use a centralized system. And so that's why this idea of decentralization, which is how you have like true digital ownership in a safe way, you need decentralization for that, because the minute there's not a central counterparty, you actually probably won't have ownership. And so decentralization is the core of that. And the reason why myself and many others are so gung ho on decentralization is because we now have this ability, because we have blockchains and open, public permissionless blockchains. We can have all these systems and things built on these blockchains and actually have the ability to be decentralized, be owned by decentralized entities like DAOs. And so you can actually have functioning systems and products that are decentralized. And for many, many years, we're just replicating many of the centralized systems into a decentralized world, which is the first step and is important, because we know what centralized systems look like. We have a centralized system for everything in the world. What we don't have is a decentralized system. And then once you have the decentralized version of all those things, what can you do? What new properties does that take? What can you build on top of that? What can't be messed with by centralized counterparties? And so we're in that process of getting to the point where we can start to make new interesting things that can only be built on decentralized systems. And so that's why you hear me and others keep talking about decentralization. And the reason why don't think DAOs are going anywhere is because unless you have some immutable this system on a blockchain that like there is no governance and no changing, like some aspects of certain protocols like Uniswap and stuff, the minute you have any other system, if there's any governance to it, and that governance has to be held by someone, there's only two choices. there's it being held by a centralized counterparty or it being held by a decentralized group of people or a system. And that decentralized governance mechanism is a DAO. And so whether it's a big DeFi protocol or um, a new Web3 social protocol or something, those have to be owned by a decentralized governance system in order for the actual system and product to be decentralized also. And that's why we have DAOs, and that's why DAOs will just become more and more popular in this digital world at first, and then probably eventually physical attached to digital world too.
Yeah, maybe we can go in a little bit more with DAOs. I remember you were talking with Isaac Patka on his podcast a few years ago, and you said something about how you know, when a proposal is up for discussion, if it passes with 51%, then you've pissed off 49% of the community. And I had never had that perspective before. And it was just like one of those, okay, now I can't unsee that anymore. Um, and I think you have a lot of that because you have experience in one of the earliest DAOs and you have experience in many kinds of DAOs. Maybe you can go into like this perspective, like, you've seen the birth of DAOs, the death of DAOs, like different kind, DeFi DAOs or like, social DAOs, public goods DAOs. How do you think, what are the things that you are seeing that we've actually gained insight on that we maybe have improved on? And is there anything you're hopeful for, like with this kind of decentralized and autonomous organization
Yeah,
experiment?
yeah. Um, to start, so we had lots of DAOs. A lot of people complained about DAOs. Historically, DAOs are like way slower, way less efficient, way more of a pain than having a CEO of the project that can just make all the decisions. That's very clear, right? Um, just kind of like a government, you can think of like passing a proposal through a DAO a little bit like passing a bill through Congress. Like it starts with an idea, you share an idea like with a small group that of core people that might think that's a good idea, and then you start to like build consensus around that idea that you're going to bring to the DAO, and you're going to ask the DAO for approval, and approval is usually for money, so you can do that idea, or to like actually have the DAO implemented into a product or a product being owned by the DAO. And so you, if you, if you, if you bring some new idea to a DAO and it's a contentious thing, and uh, you get, you know that 51% of the people are going to love the idea and 49%, like you said, are going to hate the idea. It's probably an idea that probably could use some more negotiation, some more constructive criticism, getting that idea to the point where more of the people in the DAO are excited about it, right? And so, like generally, like ideally, you have your ideas and your asks to the DAO generally have like 80 or 90% support, right? And if not, it's going to be a bit of a conflict. There can be social conflict. There can be a lot of issues, and so we ran into lots of different scenarios like that in the last few years. And I'd say we saw a lot of DAOs die, some from lack of interest, stagnation, running out of money, not producing successful products and things. High level, some of the lessons I've learned is like three maybe of the most important things that are now being worked on quite a bit is any decentralized community or community in general. You ideally you want a very clear and simple mission that a majority of the people actually really care about. And so that starts with a smaller group and then can grow. But you, without that, you're not going to get the the capital, whether it's financial, human, attention, capital, to like move push that idea forward. And so having that clear, and if it's unclear, everyone's thinking different things, that causes problems too. And so a CEO usually forms that in a private, centralized company. A mission of a DAO is that idea for a DAO. And so having that very clear, that and having a lot of people to care about it, is like the first most important thing. And that can change over time, but if you lose that, you run into problems, and a whole bunch of DAOs have collapsed and got installed because of that. With that, the coolest thing about DAOs is the when they decentralized autonomous organization. Autonomous does not mean automatic. Autonomous in my mind means means more like people. So let's have people be autonomous together. And so anyone in the world can actually contribute to a DAO without the DAO's permission. That's the autonomous part. Everyone is autonomous. It doesn't mean that the DAO operates automatically. Blockchains and DAOs nothing ever happens automatically. Um, and so people have to contribute um, different forms of capital to a DAO. And with that, um, one of the biggest issues was like delegation. And so, how do you delegate responsibilities and things in these decentralized organizations? And that's a big problem that wasn't figured out for a long time. And now there's protocols like HATS protocol that are specifically built to help with um, uh, to help with this issue. Um, Delegating responsibilities, delegating signing abilities, delegating ownership of multi-sigs, things like that. But then having the DAO, the overall DAO, and DAOs can be token DAOs can be reputation-based DAOs, lots of different types of DAOs. But the DAO actually has overall control of those things, and so it can delegate out responsibilities and can pull those back. And so once you solve delegation, the next most important thing is evaluation. And so there's lots of tools that have formed over the years, like Coordinate and SourceCred and other things to help evaluate. And so having delegation without evaluations doesn't really work. So you actually need delegation, and then you have to have ways for the collective to evaluate different goals and people and things in that system, and then that allows the DAO to extend, stop, or pull back delegation, things that it's delegating, money, payment, access, things like that. And so those three things, you put those together. If you've solved those and you have those, I think your DAO works a lot better. And so some will say simpler DAOs can do all those things easier. Like only having to do those things once every 6 months is different than having to do those things every week. And so, if you could have like a sub DAO that does all the payments, and that has access, that has responsibility for 6 months to make all the payments, the workers and all the dependencies and things. And then at the end of the 6 months, you evaluate, did that group, that sub DAO, do well at that? Yes or no? Okay, extend that for another 6 months. Okay, or pull that back and give that to a different group of people, a different sub DAO. And so that's all like happening now. And so I think we'll continue to have lots of experiments in DAOs, and they'll have to change. And AI is like a whole nother element that you can build into some of those things, but you don't need AI to make successful DAOs. But maybe you'll have AI improve and make some of those things easier. Um, help people pay attention to the most important things that they in the DAOs that they're in, rather than have to look at everything, things like that.
Yeah, like sense making, just going and fetching things for you and telling you this is what's happening so you can make sense of it easier,
Yeah.
faster. Um, so you said you were working in tech startups, and there's like a lot of tech in DAOs and crypto and now with AI. A lot of the people we work with tend to get focused on the tech just for the tech itself, but I feel like you have this broader perspective. So how do you decide like what type of tech is interesting to you, and and what do you look for when you're trying it out?
Uh, it's a good question. Well, most of the tech I look at these days is Web3 related. Um, for me, my interests of like the projects that I'm helping, the DAOs that I'm in, the people that I associate with, the Telegram groups that I'm in, um, are mainly based on interests. So the 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 things that I'm most interested in, like funding public goods or privacy or building the tools that like many people in the space need that don't exist. So yes, solving and filling a need that is open. Um, and so I guess by using lots of different things, lots of different protocols, uh, different uh, things that are building into those spaces I mentioned, I basically, those are the projects and teams and communities that I'm attracted to that I end up spending more time in. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see like there's
Yeah,
like a thread, like a privacy thread or a decentralization thread, and you're pulling it and up, and then you just see like a group of people working on something, and so now you want to try that out because it's part of this thread that you keep pulling on.
yeah. Like we've been talking about privacy in Ethereum world and in Web3 world for a long time now, like for like for multiple years, because it's such an important thing that like you don't want everything you're doing public. Um, when you if you're going to start using crypto in the real world, having it linked to your wallet and it's just a public payment, then they're watching all your payments from then on, and even the cards like Gnosis card and Gnosis Pay card and MetaMask card, where it's just like your on-chain wallet and it's just coming out of your non-custodial wallet that then people can track transactions in that same wallet for as long as they want, versus those payments come out of a privacy pool, like which is not actually that hard to do, that hasn't existed, and it just shows how we're not going to have a billion people using this stuff if there's not this privacy, and so having this privacy is important. And the EF only very recently just created a privacy team, the Ethereum Foundation, to focus on like all these different verticals and sectors of privacy in our space. And we're like, over 10 years in, and they just created an initiative and team to do that. So that just shows you kind of how slow it is. And we needed a lot of the pieces built before that, but we always knew that privacy was going to be an important part of it, a really important part of it. And so, pushing it off for 10 years and now just starting to get to it, it makes it a little frustrating. Um, and there are different protocols and systems out there you can use a bit. Regulatory, pushback didn't help either. But I think we're getting there. And so if people, just like people understanding what digital ownership is, people understanding what privacy actually means in your personal world is also important. People have to have a desire for it. A lot of times people will just say, like, depending on what country you live in, like, oh, I don't really care about my privacy. Like, it's fine as it is. Like, I trust some banks and I trust the big tech companies and whatever. But when it comes to blockchains, it's a bit different. It's bigger stakes. And so people understanding through education why privacy matters, why digital ownership matters, and why those things together matter will progress us down a better path than where we are today, I think.
Yeah, I have one last question for you. Um, can you kind of like look ahead and see with like crypto and AI and any other like tech that we might be surprised with soon? Or just like how people coordinate or just stuff that you've thinking about, even commodities. Is there anything that you are excited about, looking forward to, or maybe like concerned about that what you want to watch?
Yeah, so very high level, like the idea of like tokens. And so I'm a believer of like a mini token world. In the Web3 space, we can hold tokens and have governance and ownership in the systems that we use and like and care about. That will expand to all the different parts of your life. And so it will become to the point where the products and things you use, you'll, as an early stakeholder, you'll earn, ownership or stake in those projects. And you will effectively, because you can own these, can have digital ownership, you'll start to like hold a portfolio uh, of ownership and stake in all of the many of the systems and things you care about, and that can be your local systems, your local, things like local cooperatives. Um, like an example is many of us in the space use a co-employer to like if we have a business or an LLC in the space and we're contributing to DAOs, we can team up with the co-employer, in this case Opolis, which is a Web3 focused co-employer, but can actually be a co-employer for any freelancer. Um, you can get benefits like healthcare and vision and dental and a 401k and things through this co-employer. There's other co-employers that exist in the world in the tech space. There's Trinet and Justo and a whole bunch of other ones. The difference is Opolis is actually a digital cooperative headquartered in the state of Colorado, where they have deep experience in cooperatives and are bringing that to digital cooperatives. And so, as you use this co-employer to manage your payroll and your benefits and things, you actually are earning stake in this co-employment, in this employment commons, basically. And so, rather than using Trinet, where they're my co-employer and they extract all the value and keep it themselves and just offer me a service, I get the same service from this collective, this commons, but then I also get to earn stake in this collective, and so I become an owner. And the longer I use it, the more of an owner I become. And so, why would I not want that system over the one where a different centralized company extracts all the value and just provides a service? And so, if you take that model and you start applying that to all the things in your life and all the things you care about and all the systems that are creating value and uh, benefiting the world, and that includes public good systems, which like Giveth and Gitcoin and other people are working on experiments as ways to make those economic and have them sustainable and fund themselves. And so you can have stake in all the systems you care about. You can have stake in and give to all the causes that you care about. Um, and you have this like portfolio of what you care about as a person. I think that becomes really, really interesting. Um, and uh, that basically couldn't exist before blockchains and tokens and, yeah, open public permissionless blockchains, and then DAOs and governance systems that come with those communities. And so all of those things have been built in the last 10 years, and now you can already start to live that life and and that can be in the financial world, that can be in the social world, that can be in the product world. Um, and so that's really cool to see. And I think more and more people will start to realize that and and participate in that new uh, ownership economy, I guess.
Thank you. That sounds like a really exciting future. I think I could join
Well, you're already in it.
that. I guess
You just need more. Yeah, the rest of the world to be in it.
we need more friends with us. Um, Thank you, Sky. Really appreciate you
Yeah,
spending time
thank you.
here.